Matt and Jason of Wraith.
How you doing, Mark?
Yes, sir. Good to see you again, Mark.
Welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Really good. Looking forward to the show.
Yeah.
Excellent.
About to play in about probably, an hour?
Yeah.
An hour and a half. Yeah.
So back in June, you released Fueled by Fear, right? How long did it take you to put this album together?
Better part of a year. We worked on it for quite a while. It was a little bit of a different writing process than what we typically do. I had some water issues in my basement, which is where we were doing practice and stuff before. So we were kind of forced to move it upstairs and write and jam the songs in more kind of like this room, I guess, an office setting.
Yeah.
With like an electronic drum kit and kind of tracking through plugins and more like conversations about piecing songs together versus just getting in the room and playing.
Yeah. Cranking the amps and just kind of
Yeah.
that's a cool riff. Okay, yeah, let's do that. And, just kind of, like Matt said, it was a little bit different environment to put them together, but I feel like it was cool because we got to really demo and kind of live with the songs as we were writing them. So then, if we wanted to make changes or tweaks or whatever, we were able to do that. So a little bit longer of a process, but I think ultimately all the songs came out the better for it,
I'm surprised you didn't call the album Flooded by Fear.
Right, yeah.
It could have been.
Could have been, yeah. It really could have been.
Oh boy.
So this is your, fourth full-length record, right?
Yep.
How would you say your songwriting developed and changed over the years?
I think just kind of naturally. I don't think anybody's ever we've never collectively gotten together and said it's time for us to do X, Y, and Z, or we need to change X, Y, and Z. I think just by playing with each other and learning each other's tendencies and developing as musicians, the songs have kind of grown with us, I guess. I think it's, if anything, it's just slightly opening the sphere of what Wraith can do. And that doesn't mean we won't ever, write a 2-minute long song or that we're only going to write 4.5-minute long songs. But I think for us, it's very dependent on the vibe. What does a song need? What does the record need? Is it missing something that's maybe got a little more teeth to it? Is it missing something that, is maybe it's a little bit more intricate or something? But I think that has just grown with us playing with each other for, the last, almost 10 years?
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, it's cool too because everyone in Wraith is a songwriter. It always comes up whenever we, are doing press or interviews or those sorts of things. And I feel like not every band is like that. You might have bands where it's, one or two people are really drive it in the songwriting. And the cool thing is with our band, everyone writes songs, whether it's a complete piece, right? A whole song that's done, or hey, I got a cool verse. Maybe Matt has a chorus in mind, or let's add this bridge. Mike brings that in. Chris might have ideas. So it's really cool that we have that that kind of relationship because then we're never really short of material. It's always okay, we have all these songs. What are the best ones?
Yeah.
Which is a good place to be in, I think.
Definitely.
So when you go back and listen to your old records, what comes up? This is how we did it back then, this is how we do it now. What changes? What do you notice?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I would say I don't think I've ever been asked that. When I go back and listen to the old stuff, I still hold all that in very high regard. I know a lot of bands, maybe they don't say it, but I think it's kind of implied that they've grown out of their older material. Whereas I don't feel like that's the case with us at all. We're playing tonight. This is the very first song that I wrote for Wraith in 2016. It's still on the set list, and it wasn't for a while, but it's back now. We're playing something off Index Case, which was a kind of a one-off EP. We're playing stuff off Chains, off Fueled, off, we really try to just kind of touch on everything still because I look back at that stuff with I'm just as proud of that stuff as I am of Fueled by Fear.
Yeah, I think the process too, if you really think about it, it was always kind of that, hey, what do you got? Bring a riff in, bring a song in, that sort of thing, even in those very early days. I remember even before I was kind of officially in the band in a writing capacity, the songs from, my perception as coming in and kind of working on solos and harmonies and kind of all those additional layers, it was always really hey, what do you got, Chris? Oh, Chris wrote this part. So kind of that same process we just talked about, right, of piecing the song together and then just adding in what need to be added in, which I always say the key thing is you can listen to those old songs and the new songs in a live set, like what we're going to do here in a couple hours, and it all fits. It all makes sense. There's, yeah.
There are 14 tracks on the new album. Is there a special theme that connects them all?
Well, that's another really good question. I think the theme, especially on Fueled and for most of Wraith, is just, it's kind of really trying to get the listener to delve into that like feeling of desperation. You know, I think I'm always a big advocate, a firm believer that metal should be metal. It should be scary. It should talk about things that are poignant and relevant and challenging authority and challenging norms and talking about the dark side, you know. So I think the theme is of Fueled by Fear is fear. You know, everything is somehow rooted, I think, in fear lyrically. Musically, the track list is assembled just like the rest of them. We wanted to create an experience for the listener because Jason and I have talked about this every interview that we ever do because we're total music nerds, but it's just the ride that you get from listening to a record. You know, the part of putting a record out is sequencing it correctly, and an artist puts time into that. You know, it's a thought process, and we really tried on Fueled by Fear to give the listener a ride over the course of 45 minutes and not just kind of like, here's all the fast ones, then here's all the slow ones. You know, try to give people an experience while they're listening to the record.
And well, you know, even with the songs, how do you determine that the song's going to be 2 minutes long as opposed to 4 minutes long? Because you have like the combination of both,
Sure.
and they both work.
Yeah. I think like for us, you know, it's bringing in a lot of those different influences too, because like we're all big fans of like, you know, the Bay Area thrash bands. You know, look at Metallica, Testament, Forbidden, Exodus. You know, a lot of that stuff is big as well as an influence. And you think about, you know, put a song together. What does it need to be? Like Matt said a minute ago, right? Does it need to be more direct? Is it a 2-minute song? Is it more of kind of a punk rock influence or like a rock and roll influence coming through, right? Some of the Motorhead stuff or even the old punk rock stuff, Ramones, all the other things we kind of share in common. Or is it a song like I'll use like Code Red as a good example, or Truth Decay on the new record? Kind of same thing, you know, we knew we wanted to do something that had a few more bits and pieces to it. You know, it's got a big kind of moshy middle section, there's trade-off solos, there's all that, and if you do that, it's going to extend the time of the song a little bit. So those songs, we tried to make sure it makes sense. If it's 4 minutes long, it needs to be 4 minutes. It doesn't need to be 3 minutes. If we can cut stuff out, we tend to cut it out, right? If it needs to be a 3-minute song, it's a 3-minute song. So
Sometimes less is more.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
You kind of touched upon this before, but why the title Fuel by Fear?
Oh, I think everybody can relate in some capacity to fear, right? I think realistically, a lot of my motivation comes from fears that I have, fear of failure, you know, fear of not fitting in, fear in music, maybe people don't like it, or, you know, the career isn't going to span as long as I would like it to. And I think that for me, a motivator when writing lyrics is it's got to be real. It's got to be genuine. It's got to come from somewhere, you know, that can get me into the place to be inspired to write music. And I can't remember, Mike might have mentioned the title Fueled by Fear while we were recording something else, and immediately just stuck. So I remember I made a notes page on my phone, you know, and I titled it, you know, new Wraith record - Fueled by Fear. So the title was there the whole time. So when I'm writing lyrics for songs and I'm coming up with ideas or titles, or somebody kicks me a song idea, I'm trying right away to make sure that I'm fitting it into this, you know, we have kind of a template, or I know at least where the things are, inspiration's coming from. So I think it was there from day one.
Yeah, I think it was cool too, just to expand on that a little bit. Like, we had that title initially, right? So we knew the title, and then we already kind of had the idea for what the cover would be. So that kind of set the scene for the rest of the project. Like when we started actually diving in and really working on sequencing all the music we had written, and then we started talking about song topics, and Matt started diving into lyrics, it was like, the song Asylum is supposed to be wheeling someone into the padded cell, right? And then for me, I always just envision this character from the cover having all of these, you know, look at the news, look at all these current events, look at all these things going on in the world, all those things are flashing through this person's mind as they're just kind of grappling with all this stuff. And that really set the scene for everything that would follow as far as song titles, themes, all that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the album's been out for a few months, so what feedback are you getting so far?
Overall, really positive. It was our first release on Prosthetic Records, which is great. I think it's, you know, kind of making its rounds, and it's getting us a little bit of kind of press and notoriety outside of the Midwest. Honestly, we just wrapped up that tour this summer with Exciter and Midnight, and we sold out of copies of the new record, which, once again, you talk about fears, you know, it's my fear is that we were going to have Undo the Chains and Fueled by Fear, and everybody wants Undo the Chains because it's the one that they haven't had a chance to get yet. But in all reality, I mean, everybody was buying the new one too, and as metal fans, we all know how fickle we can be, and sometimes a record doesn't land, or it could be that you don't like it initially, you go back 2 years later and it's your favorite one. But at least this one is carrying us. It seems like it's on par with the rest of them, which is really reassuring, and I think it's going to give us the opportunity to do another one, and keep trying to raise the bar, personally and as a band grow. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know if you want to chime in, but really no complaints.
It always makes me feel good whenever we pose that question to fans, whether it's on social media or just talking with people at the merch booth or whatever. What's your favorite song? And we hear 14 different answers.
Yeah,
and to me, that's awesome. That means that the album, like the track list, has some staying power. People can draw out different things. Maybe you like slower, heavier stuff. Maybe you like super fast stuff. Maybe you like the punky stuff or the really rocky stuff. It's kind of, for me, like a really good distillation of the Wraith sound. We kind of covered all the bases on the record, but in a really organic way. So, yeah, I'm really proud of it.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned you were touring with Exciter and Midnight. How did things go, like, response-wise?
Oh, it was amazing, really. I mean, every night, I think you don't know what to expect. We're hitting markets that we've never been to, but I was truly blown away by the response. I mean, blown away. People singing the lyrics to songs. We had to restock merch 3 times on a 3-week tour, which far exceeded our expectations. We thought we would be set with the amount we brought initially. I mean, taking pictures, signing autographs, having great conversations with fans. All over,
met tons of cool fans,
all over the U.S. and
cool
Canada. So I couldn't have asked for a better experience in terms of our first kind of real big outing. It was,
we went like places we've personally never been before. Like the one that always sticks with me because it was like a total, never in a million years would have thought this would be like one of the highlights for me of the tour. Albuquerque, New Mexico on a Monday night. Yeah. We played this venue called the Launchpad there, and like tons of cool bands have come through there. There's tons of awesome posters on the walls. Didn't know what to expect. We set everything up like we normally do, and then it was for a Monday night. It sold out, and when we walked out, it was Wraith. And that makes you feel like you're 10 feet tall. I mean, it was so cool. People telling us we can't, been waiting all this time for you guys to come out here. Thanks for coming to the Southwest. It's great to see you guys. Love the new record. Great conversations. Met awesome people.
The best thing was at the end they said, "Please come back."
Yeah.
So it's not like we disappointed. They want
feel
like
ready for us. We open that door now into that city, which is killer. And we have stories like that all over the country, which is super cool.
Definitely.
So it is safe to say your fan base is clearly expanding.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope so.
Yeah. It's great to see.
You have been a band for nearly a decade now. What lessons did you learn throughout the time about day-to-day business in being a heavy metal band?
Yeah, man, that is such a great question. You really came with some good ones today. That was the biggest lesson, right? I think anybody who starts a band has the New Mexico, on a Monday night dream, but I don't know that anybody really understands what it takes to take it from you recording songs in your bedroom to, being prepared enough to take it to that level. So the lessons have just been never ending. I mean, still almost 10 years in, I'm learning tons of stuff. And being on tour with guys like Exciter and Midnight truly, it was an honor. It was like going to school, You get to really watch how just professional and polite and put together and responsible, these guys are. And that's truly what it takes. I mean, you can't cut corners, because it just would never work.
Yeah, that's the circus rolling through town. I mean, it takes a lot to put a show on, even a show at kind of that, smaller to mid-level, let alone an arena show or something crazy like that. But we certainly learned a lot, and I think, it helps too in our situation. We got 4 guys who each have different skill sets. So when you talk about like the business side of the band, right, which always kind of comes second to the music and the friendships in our band, which is great, everyone kind of plays on their strengths, and I think in doing that, we're able to do a lot of DIY stuff. We're able to do a lot in-house and take care of that because everyone kind of has their lane and, they know what they excel at. So that's been really beneficial for us too.
To someone who never seen you live, how would you describe your image?
No bullshit. I think that's for sure. I know that trends exist in metal and they come and go, but we're a little bit older, and I think we kind of have found a foothold, and that's our thing. So if you're expecting a bunch of pyro or sequence shirts or a bunch of fancy lights or something, we're probably not going to be your band. But if you want 30 or 45 minutes of just kind of all gas no break, that we can do, and I think that is kind of where we've realized.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, we excel in that. You know, we start strong, and for us, it's just we want to pummel you until our set is over, and then we're gassed and we walk off stage, and that's kind of mission accomplished, I think.
I think it's the thing too. For us, it's the music. You know, the music is first, so it's all about that energy. I love playing live. I love looking down on the crowd. I love seeing a pit. I love seeing people having fun. I love seeing people sing the lyrics back to us, stage diving, throwing the horns, rocking out. Like that, to me, that's what it's all about.
Definitely.
So we try, we feed off of that energy. If we get a great crowd and people are really having a good time, we're going to play the best we can. You know what I mean? So and probably 20 beats faster.
Somebody once described us as like construction worker metal, because they said the first time they saw us, we're just like kind of, I mean, your average Midwestern guys. But like they said, once we started playing, it was just like undeniable, you know? Yeah. We don't have much of an image, I guess. It's usually t-shirts and jeans and Vans or whatever. But then the show starts and people are like, oh, wow, fuck, this is, you know, it's got some intensity to it. Yeah.
I thought you guys were roadies.
Yeah, we're the help. We're not the
I was going to say, I was a roadie, and 2 hours ago loaded in. I'll be the roadie 5 hours from now when the show's over.
Right. So generally, after a decade of doing this, what still drives you?
Music, man. Music still drives me 100%. I think that is a flame that is never going to be extinguished. In some capacity, I have to play music, you know, and I think I would do it if there was nobody there. I would write songs if nobody listened to them. To me, everything extra is an added bonus. Listeners are an added bonus. People that come and want to have conversations and ask for pictures is an added bonus. But truly, I think I found music at a formative age, and it became the thing I cared about more than anything else. And I just think that that's something that is always going to drive me. I mean, I'm always thinking about music. In some capacity, I'm humming a melody, I'm writing a lyric, I'm noodling on my guitar, I'm coming up with a riff, I'm listening to it, I'm talking about it, I'm comparing notes, we're talking, we just had a conversation.
You probably have a riff now.
I do, I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to wrap this up so I can go play.
And Jason, in your case, it's 2 full-time bands.
Yeah, well, that plays into what I was going to say too when you talk about what keeps us going, right? So I agree with everything Matt said about music, but I would say for me too, it's for the friendship, it's the experiences, right? Sure. For me, that's the cool thing is that the bands I'm in happen to be with some of my best friends, right? And we've all been friends and known each other for decades now. And I feel like, you know, Wraith isn't one of those bands where you could just say, oh, Matt doesn't want to do it anymore, get a new singer. You know, like we have history, we're friends. The dynamic is what it is because of the people that are involved.
For sure.
And I think that's a really important thing. And it's cool too, like we talk about the tour, you know, being able to experience that with your friends, guys that you grew up with. We've all come from the same sort of backgrounds, you know, we're all working class, Midwest, you know, guys. We grew up in the same area, went to the same schools, we've been in each other's weddings. And I feel like you can't really remove the history from Wraith as an entity, you know, in our music. I feel like that it kind of informs the music too. So it just keeps us going because we're like looking forward, like when we go play Dynamo Fest in Netherlands next year, being able to go with my friends and experience that for the first time. I've never been to Europe, so it'll be a really cool experience to have with my friends, you know, and get up there and play music for everybody. So
yeah, it truly seems surreal sometimes. I definitely often have those pinch me moments where you're like, how did I get so lucky? You know, with all the bands and all the, you know, shows and all the people that have found themselves in these situations, you know, like I truly hit the jackpot to be sitting, like Tor was a great example because there's days where you're grumpy, you're sitting in the back of the van, it's hot, you're pissed off, you don't really want to load all the shit in, and it's like, who the fuck am I to complain? Like, I get to do this, I get to go up there and play in direct support for Midnight and Exciter in San Diego. Like, what am I complaining about? This is amazing. Like, I don't want to do anything else, you know? This is the perfect situation. Yeah, and you're around people you love and care about, and there's really, you can't beat that. I think it would be impossible.
You kind of mentioned a little bit about writing a riff, so is there any new material being worked at?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a list full of song ideas. We kicked around a couple demos I got on my phone already, so I know record cycles are funny because in my mind, Fueled by Fear is old. It's old music because, you know, we wrote it 2 years ago and we recorded it and we sat on it for almost a year, and now it's been released for a few months. So we're kind of chomping at the bit to get back into the studio and do something new. So I wouldn't be surprised if another record is done before we know it.
Yeah, there's just tons of ideas.
Yeah, tons of ideas.
And that'll be the cool thing, I think, with, as I said earlier too, the way this band works, right? We might find ourselves with 25 songs and then it's like, okay, cool, what are the 10 best of those 25, and then that's the next record, you know. So it's all kind of the question, like when that'll be. Is that 6 months from now? Is that a year from now? But the ideas are always flowing. So yeah, we're writing riffs.
Maybe it's time for a live record.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. That'd be really cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Live at Budokan.
Yeah. I've been on the phone with them over there. So.
Yeah, Jason's calling them, so yeah. No, that'd be great. I think a live record would be really cool. Especially we're talking about the live performance, and we've watched YouTube videos like everybody does. You know, your own worst critic, and I mean, I would say like for the most part, I'm usually very pleasantly surprised with how the live videos turn out. We're pretty dialed.
Well, I think that's the thing too. Like, you know, just like we talk about over years, what changes, right? I think you kind of learn each other's nuances, and you get tighter as a band and as a unit, doing it night after night and everything. To where now I feel like we've developed that shorthand amongst each other, and when you see that back, it's like, oh yeah, you know, we're really tight. And it's not to say the band always wasn't tight, but it's cool to, you know, get to that point and develop that over time, where all of a sudden you're a wrecking ball. Because that's how I feel about my favorite bands. If I go see a band and they're super tight, you know, and they've been doing it for 40 years, that's cool, man. That's something to aspire to. I want people to say, yeah, the record's great. Seeing you guys live, it was even better.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the ultimate compliment you can get. So
It sure is.
yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.